Hey guys, it's Matt. A few years ago in a presentation, I proposed the concept, the meaning of life is to realize that life has meaning. The meaning of life is to realize, come to that and not accept it on paper, but to accept it mind, body, and spirit all together, accept it that this has meaning. The meaning of life is to realize that this has meaning. And that seems simple to us, but again, there's a lot of people, maybe billions, that are like certain relatives of mine that I've mentioned before, where if you ask them about life after death, they say, well, probably nothing, just kind of go to nothing. And are you an atheist? No, but we just probably just go to, they have even no religion. So what would the phrase, the meaning of life is to realize that life has meaning, what would it mean to that person? Nothing. I mean, they wouldn't find much meaning other than the successes of whatever this matrix says that was accomplished here on a matrix resume. So in this presentation, trying to take that phrase to the next level and say something like, the meaning of life is to assign life the right meaning, or that's a kind of a transition to saying the purpose of life is to assign life the right purpose. In this presentation, I might flip-flop meaning and purpose, but it really is more about purpose. Once again, the meaning of life is to assign or find the right meaning. This reality gives us a lot of false choices. So some lost, I mean, it's a horrible example, but some lost CEO that had sold his or her business, may actually on their deathbed, because the stock options are worth $400 million, believe they did something. I mean, that would actually be meaning or a life fulfilled to that lost person. That's a bad example, but this matrix reality gives us a lot of false choices as to assigning meaning or purpose to life. Our choice or our goal is to pick the right meaning or right choice. If this isn't making any sense, it will as I move forward. Again, this reality construct will deliver an endless list of choices of what the right meaning should be, or what your correct and just purpose should be. A lot of false choices, and the best way to think about the reality, as I've said before, is it's all these component parts and minion parts essentially working together without each element knowing, like a compartmentalization, without each element really understanding the role of the whole, it works together to throw, quote, a word we don't like, human beings off the correct spiritual path. It's that simple. The reality as it's designed today exists in whole to throw human beings off the right path, at least the active part of it, the minion part of it, yet the right path or the right meaning and purpose is always there. It always is embedded in this reality. And the creeps and the minions can't get rid of that. That's always there for us to see. Since, 4 billion people here on this earth have some form of religion, to start with the absolute basics. Is the meaning or purpose then serving a god, like the major religions, Allah, Yeshua, Yahweh, Buddhism approach of enlightening oneself over many opportunities or many lifetimes, serving a variety of gods like Hinduism, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. Is that the meaning? Start there. Most people have a religion. Is that the meaning or purpose? Later, we'll talk about how this society has positioned it so that in and of itself, serving the God is the meaning or purpose, when it's more likely, we'll look at this later, that the God of choice, how else should I present it? The world is divided up amongst gods. The God of choice should be a guide to helping the individual find the meaning. The sick society has turned it the other way around, that serving the God is more important than what one needs to do for oneself. We'll talk about that later. At least the way big religion presents it today, if one's chosen meaning in life or purpose is serving their God, a god of one of the famous religious books, for example, and if that's the correct choice by them, if that's the correct choice, then if that's right, it certainly seems to be the easiest way to win. Okay, that Pick the right God, serve the God. Doesn't matter that much what you do for yourself. If that's correct, that is the way a lot of religions present it. It seems to be, if that's correct, that certainly is the easiest way to win. But does that provide a win for one's life, one's soul and spirit in this reality system? Is that part of the trick of this reality system? Maybe the God is, instead of being served in the way big religion may present it, it is a guide for what you need to do for yourself. The scorecard is still on yourself. Other people believe it's simply about serving the spiritual aspect of yourself. We're here to serve ourselves, or more specifically, to serve an aspect of us that is not here inside this earth reality system, a spiritual aspect of us that's not here, but is part of you, and you are part of it. People that talk about higher self believe you are an aspect of something that's outside of this reality experience. Something sent part of itself into the earth realm to have an experience of some kind. Some people would say you potentially could be the big toe of this greater spiritual existence, and the big toe has metaphorically been dipped into the water, and the rest has not jumped in for a swim. But the big toe has been dipped in the water for the experience, good or bad, of the earth realm, and you are the big toe in the icy water. By saying big toe, I don't mean to belittle or downplay the importance of what you are here, at least if I'm allowed to speak for people that have this perspective. It's not like as the big toe, you have no power, you're put in the water, you're yanked out whenever the larger and greater spiritual body wants. It's the big toe is more important than that. I'm just presenting probably a bad analogy or example. The big toe has to do the work, has to convince the greater self that the work has been done and it doesn't need to be done anymore. The big toe has a lot of influence on the whole spiritually. One of my personal beliefs is very similar to what happened to me this week with the power surge. I mean, I don't want to stray, but it's just been difficult. But it could be a little microcosm for life itself, or the reality experience itself. A situation is entered into very quickly, drops on your head. A situation is entered into that all of a sudden sheds a completely new understanding of the old situation, a completely new understanding of what was once totally taken for granted. Like the 4,000 times this week I went to throw a light switch and nothing happened. You're just so used to doing it, pouring buckets of water into the toilet. All of a sudden you're thrown into a situation where the other situation that you complained about is pretty damn good, considering it's a little microcosm for, I don't believe if that was my only description of what life is for. I believe that is part of what this experience is for. In a way, the Amazon movie I've talked about a few times called Bliss with Owen Wilson is very similar to this concept, yet in the movie Bliss with Selma Hayek, there's even a few stranger levels of potential meaning coming out of it that could be interpreted in different ways, other than just appreciating the other of what you don't have, and the comparison between the two reality experiences presented in Bliss. Basically, on the surface level of Bliss, they go into a virtual reality that's very brutal, very much like our society today, Los Angeles of today, poverty. Then they come back, and the base level of the movie Bliss, they come back to a world that doesn't have heroin addicts and crack addicts and crime and shootings, and then they have a whole new appreciation for the place that they come back to once they leave the virtual reality. But there's some other things going on in Bliss. I'll get off Bliss in just a second, related to this, where there's a part where I think Owen Wilson says, you have to experience the bad to appreciate the good. And she kind of corrects him, if I'm remembering correctly. And something like, no, it's the other way around. You have to experience the good to appreciate the bad. And I still don't exactly know what that means or why they flip-flopped it. You have to appreciate the bad, you need the good. And again, there's a lot of weird things going on in bliss, and that's a hard topic to wrap our heads around. But just in terms of this week and how, on the face of it, it's been horrible for me, horrible. But maybe this is what Bliss was saying. There have been some amazing moments and experiences that have come out of this seemingly horrible week and that have come from the bad. I mean, if nothing happened this week would have blended into every other week, and who knows if I would have remembered one bit of it other than a video concept or topic I would have done, and who knows what it would have just blurred into every other week. But because of what happened, almost daily, I will remember things that happen every single day, things I will never forget. And I don't think it's just because the routine was broken. I walked across the street to get some sun. At this time of the year, the sun drops low behind the trees. I get nothing. I can't get any direct sun here when the leaves are out. Zero. The sun is so low. So I believe you need 15 to 20 minutes a day whenever you can get it. It's that important. So I walked across the street, up the street a bit, walked across the street, and I stood between these bushes in front of there's a giant radio tower across the street. I stood there for about 30 minutes to get sunlight yesterday. And I don't know, it was like an amazing experience. I just standing there, I needed the sunlight. I didn't want to get on the phone and try to kill time. I was like looking at what flowers were still growing and what trees had mostly dropped their leaves, and I never noticed that some poplars could be that yellow. It was just a whole different experience, and that was a good, tremendous good that came out of the bad. So all of our days blend into the next, now more than ever. And I think the reality itself is designed to do that to people, to just blend the life away, and all of a sudden you wake up and you have just a few years left, and you've basically accomplished nothing spiritually. Maybe you have the second beach home and 4 or 5 automobiles. I mean, that's what most people will base their accomplishments on. The whole reality, test score for what's considered a success is so out of whack here. It's not even funny. But just to complete this segment, I really believe we all should strive to do something strange and memorable every opportunity we get, so one week doesn't just blend in to the next. I mean, just whenever you get a chance, do something strange simply because it will be memorable. For example, how many birthdays, and I'm straying a little bit off topic, I'll come back in a moment, but how many birthdays do you remember? I remember like none. I mean, not that birthday's not a big deal for me. It was always the day I went back to high school. But how many birthdays do you remember? Maybe you've had big parties you remember, but you understand the point I'm making. Most thing just blends into the next. But if you want to do something different, this is a horrible example, but on your birthday, you're by yourself, go out and stand in your garage if it's November, December, naked for 10 minutes on your birthday. Just stand there for 10 minutes naked. You will never, ever forget that day of your birthday. Now, it's just a coincidence. I draw a parallel. I don't know how that came to be, that you're naked in the garage and it's a birthday. They come in naked. But nevertheless, you understand what I'm saying. Anytime we can put that into our lives, I think it is a useful thing, because the reality itself is designed to blur one moment into the next and to spit you out on the other side at death with you having learned or realized nothing. The movie poster of Braveheart, the Mel Gibson Braveheart, the movie poster says, quote, "Every man dies, not every man truly lives." That's not acceptable today because it's not gender inclusive, but let's just go with it. Every man dies, not every man truly lives. Now, there's something to that as well, a truth to it in the way we need to live our lives. Not just find the right meaning or purpose, but actually live life. This is the area where I'm completely delinquent. It may not be enough if the higher self concept is right. Might not be enough as the big toe for the higher self to just have seen through all the tricks, see through all the deception, be able to read the matrix code, it might not be enough to do that and then even break all ties and connections with it. And, it might not be enough if we haven't truly lived. Every man dies, not every man truly lives. Kind of an obscure song from the rock group Live, Live, Throwing Copper Eye Alone. Most people don't know this song, but there's a song. It's on there's like an occult, esoteric meaning in like everything that they do. I think this one's called Secret Samadhi. I think it's on Secret Samadhi. There's a lyric that says, "We came to the earth to graze. We came to the earth to graze." And that's just, minimally putting, we came here to live, to graze, to take a bite. And speaking of grazing, in that Free Grazing movie with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall, that big shootout because they're free grazers or driven out of town, whatever it's called. It's similar concept to what Robert Duvall says to that store clerk when they know they're about to die because I guess they're taking on a bunch of killers. There's going to be this OK Corral showdown coming up. They figure they're going to die, and they go and spend their last money on the best chocolate bar and the things in this store. And Robert Duvall says to the store clerk, "Is it any good?" And the store clerk's like, "I can't afford that." He's like, "It's been right there in front of you your whole life. You've been selling this for 20 some years." I don't know exactly what he says, but the point is, it's been right there in front of you because you never even tried it. It's like a truth drop. You never even tried it. You go through this whole life never taking a bite of anything. You go through this life not doing nothing. It's basically the point I got out of it. And this is my biggest problem. No doubt about it. This is my biggest problem. I study this reality system like few others have ever studied this reality system. I share what I learn. I share what I think as I study it. But looking at the Braveheart poster, every man dies, not every man truly lives. Matt, what's your resume in terms of truly living? Especially during these past 10 years of studying the reality system from your cave. I don't have a whole lot to put in the resume there. All right. And it's not about spending money. Well, Matt, you need money to go see the pyramids, and people think it's all about travel. That's all it is. Travel, and spending money in 4-star hotel. No, that there's other ways to live life. There's, I give Pam a ton of credit. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, her and I don't know where it came from, millions of normies, all of a sudden they're hiking and biking and doing kayaking, because this thing came and millions of normies as a reaction to it in some strange way, to which to me proves they're not NPCs, or they took to nature and they don't even know why they're doing it, kind of in a reaction to this thing that came in February or so of 2020, this thing that came from China. And now they're in hiking groups and kayak groups and things like that. And that is, I call Pam and Normie. That's living. Am I doing anything like that? No. So it's seeing through the trick, understanding who you truly are spiritually, doing the work and sending the message back to your higher self, or serving the religion you have or the God you have, is actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk, but also, we came to this earth to graze. We came here to live. And for at least my perspective, I've got a lot of work to do on that second half. And again, it has absolutely nothing to do with spending money. Somebody might just, a little garden plot out back with different types of flowers, or growing a mint and different herbs. And that takes a ton of work. That's living and appreciating it. A new appreciation for butter. And nature is one side of it, but it's not all about nature either. It's not the core part of this presentation. So you know what I mean. Certainly not about spending money. Oh my goodness. That's what most people think it's about. But let's move on. I can't move on. I'm picturing myself. I'm picturing getting my ass kicked right now by my higher self, and things got its arms crossed at the moment of my death. Well, yeah, You studied the reality system. You figured out more things than most people. You could see through this and see through that. In this aspect, you did a really good job. We really got a lot of information from what you did for the collective spiritual whole. But we sent you in there to graze, man, to experience some shit. Doesn't mean you have to go live some sort of strange ALT lifestyle, and take risks and weird and kinky stuff. I'm not talking about that weird. I'm just saying in general, okay, you get out of your cave, Matt. We sent you in there to graze. It's like the guy with the chocolate bar. You spent your whole life and take a bite of nothing. So, hopefully we'll say, well, in this area, it's like the SATs. The SAT is like a truth drop. Two sides. Is the SATs a truth drop? Two sides, verbal and math. So in this case, the analytics of how the reality works, I've aced the math. 800, maybe not 800, but aced the math. Is it 800 anymore? I don't know. Who knows what these kids are subjected to today, but the old SATs. But the other side, the verbal, came to the earth to graze, to live life, to take a bite of something, to experience things. And it's like, Matt, your verbal's so bad, I don't even understand how you signed your own name to the SATs. So it's two sides. There's two parts to do, I believe, to what we need to do in this life. And certainly in these types of circles that we run in, analyzing the matrix, well, we're always going to run on the one side of the SATs. But it is up, to us to make sure we're doing the other side of living life as well. And that's, again, one more time, that's something I better get going on. Okay, let's back up where we have a lot of consensus. No matter where we place our chips on the right path for the right purpose or meaning in life, no matter where our differences are, everybody listening to this, we have many, many things in common, but we have one really big thing in common. As of this arbitrary date, 2021, as of right now, everybody in our circle, everybody listening to this, we see the entire reality is set up as it exists now. Maybe it's been hijacked, whatever. As it exists now, it is set up to distract us from our mission, finding our mission and purpose, finding our meaning, and it is entirely set up to throw us off the correct scent or the right choice of meaning. Now, we all agree on that, or you wouldn't be here. Okay? Nothing here is real in the sense that we thought it was. It's far closer to the matrix than anything we learned about in high school physical sciences class. We have some differences there, so we'll move on. But in general, it's far closer to the matrix. There are too many coincidences. Too many times we've seen the numbers or the gematria. With thousands and thousands of each one of these examples, too many synchronicities, too many songs that contain some sort of higher spiritual message that we know is there that only we can hear, those that have tuned themselves to a certain frequency. There are too many movies and TV shows that have what we call truth drops. Now, in all of this, if there were a few here and there, we could say, is this movie actually making this sort of spiritual message? We could interpret it. But there are so many, we can't even keep track. Thousands and thousands thrown in our face. What does that tell you about the reality system? Of course. I mean, it's just not even close to what we thought. And the purpose of Anil, of the grass-fed, can I even say it? Who knows? You know what the next word would be. I don't like Tyson. I like the B word. But their role is to get everybody thinking in terms of the physical. Everything can be explained physically. That leads one or keeps one away from spiritual self. That keeps the family away from Carol Ann's closet. Not a good analogy, but let's just go with it. I have a lot of this written out, but a lot of it, as you can tell, is on the fly. Let's just use it as a guide. There are thousands and thousands of these messages to us in this reality system. So much that we don't even need to look at it anymore. We know these messages are there. It's funny why we even keep searching for more. Why keep searching for more? It's like people that send me they tell me to go to the gematria channels. I come back and say, I know this reality system delivers meaningful gematria, and the creeps will use it as well. I know it's in everything important. Of course it's there. So why do I want to keep looking at it? If it's fun for you to look at it, some people find it fun. They have a mathematical mind. It's interesting. It's fun. But I don't have a mathematical mind. I know it's there. I know it will always be there. I don't need to keep looking at the reality. That's what it'll do. It's Geico. It's what it does. So I'm not saying those channels aren't right for you. It's just, I don't like the math part, and why look at it anymore if we know it'll always be there? So we need to really move on in this respect. Okay, we know that these very high level spiritual messages that we can use will be in all aspects of the reality, especially through all aspects of art and media. Well, how did it get there, Matt? What did the director and producer know? It wants us. The reality wants us going down that yellow breadcrumb path. So we're not going to do it. But we're like, or just say me, like many of us in this truth community, like some dense guy in high school who's afraid to approach a girl. And his friend says, Joe, the girl you're interested in over there, she just wrote you a Valentine card, dude. So she wrote you a Valentine card. You should know where you stand. Go. You know where you are. She must like you. Go ask her. Go talk to her. And then Joe's like, no, Dave, I don't. I think she must write another Valentine card for me to be absolutely sure about her feelings and before I go over and talk to her. I mean, we're like this dummy. How many truth drops, synchronicities, retrocausality, spiritual language, and songs? How many examples do we need before we understand what this reality system is all about? We're worse than this guy in high school that needs a second Valentine card before he understands she might like him. We would need her to write 33 Valentine cards. and then we'd have to wait until the digital clock reads 9/11 to get a clue that that's what this girl is interested in us. I mean, okay, we don't need any more clues, any more embedded gematria. And the quote power numbers, guys, they're not. I've said this before, but it's worth saying again. They're not their numbers, the creeps' numbers. The creeps are good at noticing the power behind certain numbers, and they use those numbers for their own means. They don't own those numbers. By us, so Matt said the 33. By staying away from the numbers, you're saying, well, give the creeps everything of power, at least in this limited snow globe reality system. Oh, that's only the creeps can dabble in that. No, the number by itself has power. The creeps didn't give it the power. They use the power. They, in ways I don't understand, they use the 9 paired with the 11. They use the 33. They use the 13. So for us to say, they laugh all the way to the bank, saying these powerful people in the truth community, they're afraid to even use the numbers because that gives all the power to us, those dumbasses in the truth community. Anyway, if we need more evidence that in some way this reality system, if you look in the right spot and tune yourself to the right frequency, it's designed to give you the spiritual messages you need. Because it's not just the blatant truth that comes through all these different forms of art and movies and music. There's embedded meaning. It's like layered on top of layered. How some things presented are a triple conspiracy. Sometimes the meanings are layered. So those on different frequencies take two completely different things away while viewing or taking in the exact same thing. So it doesn't matter, my friend Tony, my old best friend from high school, Tony, it doesn't matter if Tony is an NPC or a term that I prefer now is a spirit in development, a spirit that has a lot more work to do, a baby soul. It doesn't matter what he is. Okay, we spend too much time trying to figure that out. The reality system wants us trying to figure out what he is, and it always wants us searching outside of ourselves or trying to figure out things outside of ourselves. But we know that a song can deliver a spiritual message to us. There can be certain truth drops in movies. Okay, we see that. We need to go through these examples again. They're all over the place. Now, we see it, but then the person you're in a lobby with waiting for whatever, the regular person can't see it. Of course, they can't see the truth drop in the movie or the spiritual message or the retrocausality language in the song. Okay, we know we're different from the people around us. So think of this. then why can't, this is where I'm going, why can't the 2001 A 7-Eleven Odyssey, that event in 2001, why can't that be very, very similar to why the spiritual message in the song that's there for us, but not there for the person waiting in the lobby? Or the movie with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman in Hook. Those types of events. Why can't it be kind of the same thing? I get a sense the same thing is going on. Meaning we see the spiritual message in the media, they don't. We see an event in a completely different way. Okay? We watch Silence of the Lambs, and it says, "Look deep within yourself, Clarice." Oh, that's a truth drop. Look deep within yourself. That's actually a message. It fits in the movie in a real hokey way. The yourself. They even call it out how hokey it is. Call out that we should be paying attention to it. He's like, Lecter, I thought the yourself reference was a little hokey even for Lecter, so I took it upon myself, Clarice, to look, and there's a yourself storage. Anyway, not quite. But, so they even call out how we should focus on it. So we take the meaning away. Yeah, that's a truth job. Look deep within yourself and stop paying attention to everything around you. But to your brother, who's your big sloppy brother sitting on the couch with you watching Silence of the Lambs, shoving his fifth hoagie into his mouth, there's no hidden meaning in look deep within yourself. In fact, he'd think you're crazy for even suggesting it. He's like chomping on his third hoagie. You're fucking nuts. Yeah, taking these conspiracy people, taking meanings away from movies. You people are like the guy in Lethal Weapon, like Joshua. You out there like Pluto, man. You guys are out there. So he's not going to ever see it. The people around us aren't ever going to see it. To him, a cigar is just a cigar. But we know at this point the messages are there. Not think. We know at this point, if you studied it for the last 10 years. So, of course, returning to our biggest frustration with the people around us and those that can't see, and your best friend that can't talk to you about how fake these events are and how they see nothing. That is absolutely our biggest frustration. Why the people around us that we care for can't see it. Our number one frustration. No doubt about that. But I'm evolving what I believe is going on here. And I'm kind of here. It is wacky. And it will be wacky even to many of you. But I've been going this way, and I'm ready to take the plunge. And usually we don't go far enough. So I think this is accurate. This is just my opinion, but I think it's accurate. I think they literally can't see what we can see, or it literally isn't in their reality, or not presented the same way we can take a completely different message away from a truth drop or a song. I believe it's almost literally not in their reality. Okay? I don't know any other way to explain it, but I have to call it a different reality. I know that's not accurate. There's much more going on than that. That's way too simple. But it's the way I have to present it for now. I know they're in a completely new reality or different reality. That makes no sense. I understand it. It doesn't make any sense. And that's not the best way to describe it. But there's something along those lines going on. I mean, it's just that we have too many of these endless examples. Endless examples of, the moon landing or the fake events or 2001 A 7-Eleven Odyssey. And there's hundreds and thousands of things that are so easily seen by us that they never can see. Then, either they're completely on a download of some kind and they're spiritually not even in the same ballpark as us, or literally because of where they are in their spiritual progression, or who knows what they are, it's like the reality delivers them something different. Okay? So let me just present it this way. I asked my neighbor about 2 years ago. He's about 55 years old, acts very much like a NPC normie, but he likes talking about the conspiracy. He finds it fun. He doesn't really care to pursue it, but he doesn't poo-poo it either. He doesn't run in the other direction. And I said to him, we had this super long trails in the sky. Just, 100-mile thick trails. Just ridiculous. And I said, I was talking to him about that. And he says to me, they've always They've always been there like that. Some days you just get that. He's 55 or 56. He said, that's been around as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, that was there. Guess what? We should believe him. I'm going to believe him at this point. I believe they always were in his reality. That's where I'm going with the back end of this presentation. Okay, we know they didn't exist in ours. No doubt about it. I mean, I spent a lot of time as a young kid on the Ocean City, New Jersey beach, and there was a pool in our apartment complex. I was outside in this pool at the Kingswood Apartments all the time in the summer, lying on our back on the towel, staring up. I remember my father talking to me about the little tiny condensation trails. They were out yesterday. The little tiny, thin little trail behind a jet, completely normal, completely natural. Water vapor dissipates immediately. Obviously, it's not the same as what we're talking about. But he says that they always existed. And I'm at the point where I believe him. Okay? He's not, we always have to go for a first grade explanation. No, he must be misremembering. Or he's just getting it wrong. No, he's not. We have too many examples of this. They never waver. Not one person in the normie category ever comes around like, now I do remember they were there. They never come around. Well, all of this evidence points to the nature of reality itself. If we have it, and we have this much evidence to make these conclusions. Okay? What does that mean? He's not wrong. How could he not be wrong? But they weren't in your reality, Matt. All these huge 150-mile trails that block the sun are, seems like it, they were not there in the 70s and 80s in my reality. Well, how could they be in his? How's that possible? Well, there's a lot going on here that's very hard to explain. We'll try to jump into it a little bit. Okay, but we have too many cases of this. And this is no different than a Mandela effect. Okay, this is no different. It doesn't matter if you don't see Kit Kat dashes or movie lines, if you're not Mandela affected in that way. If you have frustrations with people saying, oh, those trails have always been here, and they weren't, then you're basically Mandela affected. That's how the whole reality works. It's beyond movie line changes and the way I think the reality got us really focused on all these trite little I don't know the right word. It's seemingly insignificant things in the Mandela effect, like one-line differences in movies or one-word differences. It got us focused on the little crap, I think, on purpose, so we ignore the whole reality works this way. Those trails were always in his reality. They were not in mine. And Matt, you got a theory to explain this coming up? Because it better be good. This is some weird shit. Yeah, I do. I have a theory coming up. Buckle in. Okay, we live inside a giant Mandela effect. That's why the Mandela effect movement was hijacked to focus on bullshit like Bernstein Bears. And that is one, but it was limited to that, if you see what I'm saying. So it gets back to the ship of fools on the river of insanity talked about a few months ago. The reality moves away from us as a ship sails away. Okay? Those, I don't have any other best way of putting it, but those close to winning spiritually on what we're supposed to do here, like us, those close to winning, sorry if I don't get the words exactly right. You try talking about this stuff. It's those close to winning, we've essentially gotten off the ship. Okay? Swimming ashore, trying to find the bank. Things in the reality on the ship, the snow globe reality, things always are moving. Things are very fluid here. It's much closer to the matrix than anything else. Things shift. And to those on the ship, completely rooted on the ship, in mind, body, and spirit, they're still on the ship. It's all very normal. Okay? And it's likely these changes to us, things that we notice because we're off the ship, are not noticed by them at all. It's very similar to the dark city effect. People wake up, they're in a completely new house, a completely new wife, a completely new job. And I don't think it's that dramatic where the reality's shifting at the stroke of midnight, like in Dark City, and somebody wakes up on Tuesday and they were a janitor on Wednesday, they're a senior partner at a law firm. That's the way, they're never going to show you exactly in a movie. Dark City is the precursor to the Matrix. I think it is a huge truth drop. I think reality is very fluid, and that's one of the things Dark City was saying. So we're jumping off the ship as it's moving away, we look back at it and peer onto its deck, and it looks, as it's sailing away, because we're off it, it looks like an insane asylum. It is an insane asylum to us, what's out our window. And we can't fathom how people can't see through it. We can't fathom that here's another story about race. Oh, here's another Cadillac commercial talking about the struggles of certain types of people. I mean, how much can people take of this stuff? And we go, why aren't people reacting to this the way we are? And they just, it's all normal to them. But it is normal to them. That's what I'm saying. It's only really abnormal to us because we've jumped ship spiritually. So in terms of the nature of the ship, we see an insane asylum. That's we of course, and I could just do 24 hours about the bizarro world that's evolved really on steroids times a million in the last 5 years. It's always been weird, but not like this shit that we the last few years has been off the charts. And I'm not even talking about the C and the V. Okay, but who's right? Who's right? They're right. They are correct that it is normal. They've evolved with it. When it's shifted, they've shifted with it. We are wrong in analyzing it and calling it insane. It is insane from our perspective, but it's a baseline that no longer exists in reality. I think in Really Graceful. I like Really Graceful. But in a recent video, I think she said something like, if I'm remembering the name of the line correctly, you're not crazy, the society is. I understand the point she's making. Of course we do, and we all feel that way. But it's actually, from a metaphysical standpoint, it's wrong. It's wrong. We from society's metrics, as the ship of fools has sailed, we are crazy. Okay? We are wrong. I've said this before, so you know what I'm talking about. And because what should I use? What's the basis of what reality should be? What it really is on its own terms? I think it can decide or our terms. See what I'm saying? We're just outcasts in this reality. We don't define normal. The masses that are participating in the reality, and the reality itself defines normal. It has shifted and moved. People wake up the next day in Dark City, this is completely normal to them. We're on a different baseline because we jumped ship, if this makes sense. Okay, there are several Star Trek episodes, and perhaps they're all truth drops, where there's certain people in the episode or certain aliens that are, quote, out of phase. So there could be an alien like an inch away from Captain Picard, but he can't see the alien. It's just out of phase, or it's in another dimension, or, it's just not visible. It's not in the visible light spectrum, outside of perception. And this is the way Star Trek presents this in at least 5 episodes that I can think of. And it's the same parallel for us spiritually, I believe. Spiritually, we have phased off the ship, off the reality that keeps flowing towards what we consider to be insanity. We've phased spiritually. Our body can't do that. Our body is still on the ship, of course. Our body can't. We talk about the metaphor of swimming to shore. That's a spiritual metaphor or analogy. The body is of this place. The avatar is of this place. It can't get off the ship. It is of the ship. The ship is the Earth realm snow globe. Okay, our sense of spiritual self is not on the frequency. Our body is. Okay, it can never swim away. We've phased. We've shifted out. And we remember the old realities of the ship. Okay, we remember, or rooted to, the ship had old realities, but as it shifts, everything shifts along with it, including the masses on the ship. And those old realities, just like a Mandela effect, never existed before, where it's completely normal that every night on the news, there's a story about some corporation that's being sued because they're, again, as usual, they're not up to diversity standards, and this endless push of race it's just normal. It's just normal. Now, I don't think it's like one or the other. Like it's all NPC or all real soul. There's baby souls. There's people that need a lot of work. Sometimes people will get a little frustrated, and they do sense something is not right. But they're not, the pull of it, the magnetic pull of the reality is too strong. They're going to go along with it. And then over time, they'll become normalized and habituated to it. Where we've broken out of, two magnets, we've just broken away from the pull. It can never pull us again, and things will get strange. See, the ship is still sailing. It's going to get stranger for us. But that's the best news in the world. We've gotten off. That's pretty close to winning, if you ask me. We've gotten off. As it gets crazier and crazier, and the people around us see it as just normal, and it gets even more nuts, if you can imagine the world getting even more crazy as time goes on. This is tremendous, 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 tremendous good news from our perspective, from the big picture perspective, of the trillion years perspective, of what we're supposed to do here, the ability to break out of here, break out, It's incredibly good news. As things get worse out your window, it's the best news of all time if you believe what I'm saying here. I'm not just saying it to make myself feel better either. Okay, said in another way, we remember what reality and society should be. We covet and remember not what no longer exists after the change, but here's the kicker. It has never existed per the way the fluid reality works and what the Mandela effect has shown us. It has never existed. So when I remember my neighbor, they've always been here, those trails. The trails became part of reality. The reality then resets itself back through time like a Mandela effect. He says they've always been here. The only people that see a date of change are those like us that have separated. So the whole reality is a Mandela effect, right? And the hijacking of noticing it is the little bullshit trivial stuff that they want us, maybe that they called attention to. Probably called attention to Bernstein Bears and Fiona Broom or whatever. What is her name? Iona, the woman that came up with coined the phrase and all that. So we just focus on, what movie line changed? And it's like we just get them focusing on Curious George's tale. They won't realize the whole reality works the exact same way. So it seems that there's been a change here to us, but to anybody on the ship, there has been a change because we can see it, but it reflects back through time and has always been that way from the perspective of those still on the ship. What we remember, if this is correct, this theory, what we remember then has never been, according to the reality itself and the people on the deck of the ship. Now, look, I understand the residual evidence here is a big factor that we could tie into this conversation, but let's not muddy it up more than it already is. So whether if people are still Mandela triggered in this community, whether you notice the Kit Kat Dash is there or not, or Curious George tales, or you see any of these trivial ones, it doesn't matter, because the people listening to this, if you have the same frustrations that we all have with the people around us that just never see anything, everything is completely normal as society gets more and more insane, then I think the best explanation is you are Mandela affected. Okay? It's much more than tails and Kit Kat dashes. It has nothing to do with movie lines. It's much bigger than that. Now, our inner knowing, of course, this is a given, tells us that aligning ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, with what the reality wants and trying to tune ourselves down to its frequency and going along with it and doing whatever it wants and giving away all power to the straw man and just of course, that's not the way to win spiritually here. Okay, obviously. So we know that to win where it counts, we just do the opposite. We disengage from it. We step out of its chains of attachment. We cut the chains of attachment whenever we can. We withdraw consent whenever possible. If we still must use its systems and drive its toll roads, and we have to still use its systems unless we're going to go live in that cardboard box, but we can remove consent or withdraw consent. We must cut off our energy from it and check ourselves when falling back into the same traps of worry, anxiety, fear, stress, etc. We must not covet it and chase its yellow breadcrumbs, that it artificially supplies truthers. It supplies truthers more yellow breadcrumbs than any other group in society, maybe by a factor of 100 in terms of all the things to chase, because we're the ones closest to seeing through the tricks and ruse of the reality. Okay, some say, okay, like I've alluded to before, some say we must convince an aspect of ourselves that we're done with this game, and that we do have the power to, as a collective spiritual whole, to step away from it permanently if we want to. Say, we don't play this anymore. The truth drop of the diner scene in Triple X, many truth drops there. But I don't play this game anymore, he says, before he was shot in the stomach with a dart that knocked him out and put him back in the game. But you understand the point I'm making. Generally, at this point, we know what we must do. We have a general sense that we know what we have to do. So back to the main premise coming in to wrap all of this up. The next step of the meaning in life is to realize that life has meaning. The next step is the meaning of life is to choose the correct meaning or purpose. What path is correct for the way we are to live our lives? And then, of course, sidestepping the 1,000 stinky, corrupted paths that the reality will present us, and say how that is what we should strive to do. So the meaning of life is to realize that life has meaning. The meaning of life, or the purpose of life, is to choose the right purpose. That was what was discussed coming in, as was choosing a religion or choosing a God. And we all have various different beliefs in this area, but the one thing to remember we all have in common, no matter what you choose, it must always be backed up with living life a certain way. And we all start in the same spot, by not being taken in and seduced by the illusion of this reality. We see it now. We see ya. You know, it's like it's hiding behind the curtain with its big monster feet, the reality, big monster feet sticking out from under the curtain. We see ya. It's a fluid, fuzzy dream of some kind, and no more stock should be put into it than that. It's a train stop for an immortal soul and a spirit to work hard and learn and do some pretty amazing things. You know, when people talk about that you can use this reality to drop off all your baggage and fast track things in spiritual development, I pay attention, and that stuff does resonate with me. There's some pretty amazing strides that can be made here. So we all have to, no matter what religion you choose, we have to all walk the same walk in this regard. The bastardization of much of big religion and many sects of big religion, the bastardization of it, and don't tell me this is not believed by millions of people, because they will put the correct choice of God or the correct choice of a religion way in front of having to do the spiritual work here for ourselves, and likely to do the work for the aspect of ourselves that's not here. I'm not making that up. A lot of religions, you better choose the right one, and that's first and foremost, and then about doing the work. Okay, I believe that choosing the right God, it can be a guide to help you do the right work. The work is more important than the choice. Just so, you know what? I picked the wrong God. I'm screwed. I don't buy that. That's just me. But does that make any sense to you? No, it doesn't. Just pick the wrong one. Oh, you did everything perfectly in life, but you picked the wrong religion. You're screwed. No, that's just, come on. Obviously, a system, an entire reality system, Earth, that's based on deception from A to Z, based on deception in every aspect of it, it would obviously, a fraudulent reality would want to push the choice of the religion above the work, while at the same time carrying messages through time that real spirits should pay attention to, like, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. So don't just talk, walk the walk. We've heard that a million times. Well, that is more important than the choice. At least that's my opinion. The nature of the trick that this reality plays is so massive, so absurdly over the top that it gives itself away at this point very easily to us. I mean, so easily to see through it, because it has the stakes just keep getting higher. Its trick has to be larger and greater and grander, and the lies compound upon lies to where it becomes an absolute joke to us that have spiritually left the ship. So honestly, I don't think winning is really that hard when the reality system seems to be the reality system seems to be under some sort of direction at this moment in quote time in history. It's under some sort of a directive to give us every possible clue in the world that it can as to the nature of itself and what we really are. So we understand what we are, we remember, and all of that stuff. Okay, we can see that this is a unique time in history to take advantage of this effed up situation, because the reality seems to actually be pulling out all the stops to actually give itself away to us. Okay, it's one thing to say the ship has sailed and we can see it because we're spiritually standing on the bank, but it is, even by its own standards and what should be considered normal, it's a clown show isn't even the right words for it. It's a clown show to the 100th power. Why this is happening, it wants us spending all our time trying to figure everything out and not learning truths about ourselves. I mean, it relates back to where I've said, for lack of better words, if the creeps are going to take a giant bite of the shit sandwich, then the yin-yang principle, it must give back truth and understanding to those that demand it, like us. So different ways of saying the same thing. Either way, it's giving itself away. It's giving away everything we need to know, and it's providing probably too much information. I mean, it's almost. I'm almost scared because I would say it's easy to see at this point, and should it be this easy? But if we don't come around now, guys, we don't need any more truth drops. We don't need any more evidence. I mean, for some of us, if there is a higher self situation upon death, I mean, many of us, maybe not in this community, but in other truth communities, the higher self will be standing before you, or I don't know how to put this, or maybe another spirit, or your God, or whoever, just for the purpose of this exercise. And you're not going to be able to argue with it. You're not going to be able to say, well, we didn't get any clues down here. And it'll say, you dumb bastard. You dumbass bastard. In the 9th inning of that reality system, of which you were 40, 50, 60 years old, in the 9th inning, we made it so that stupid reality system gave you every opportunity in the world to see it for what it truly was. We exposed it in 1,000 different ways. We gave you hidden messages and meanings that you sensed were there, but then you really didn't take seriously. I mean, you complaining that you needed more than what we gave you, you dumb bastard. That it might say. I mean, if anybody, we've gotten too much clues, too many clues. It would say, how could we have made that clown show even bigger for you? How easy did you want it to be? You poor devil. Should we have just had Joe Biden come out for a West Wing podium speech and with his head in his hands, not attached to the neck, with his head in his hands? Like I said, stroking the hair with the hand. Is that what you needed before you would take reality less seriously? We weren't going to go that far. We weren't going to go as far as the headless cab driver, but what we gave you everything else. So you're not ready. You going back and do it again and do it a couple million more times or whatever. I mean, come on. We don't need to see any more. The entire reality is a deception. If you're new here and you're unsure what to do or how to proceed, simply notice what it wants you to do and do the opposite of what all the masses do. That's a pretty good start. Generally leads you down the right path. Does it want me paying attention to this, or want me following this, or interested in this? Then I guess I won't be interested in it. It's pretty simple. That's the start. Okay, there's a lot more work we need to do, but that at least gets you off the real stinky, muddy paths. The creeps here serve the reality without, in my opinion, any understanding of the big picture, the minion creeps that we see on television. They're experts in their little bucket and their little thiefdom, They might see the corruption and fraud there. They don't, in my opinion, they don't understand the big picture of what their role is. The creeps serving a role here. Okay, these creeps are spiritual meatballs compared to you and I. Spiritual meatballs. The reality is an inversion. Oh, Melvin P. Gates is, he's so powerful and he's so much money. And that tells you where it counts. He's nothing. He's the opposite. You're way ahead of him. Everything's backwards. So for me, I'll spend the rest of my life just, trying to walk the best I can, trying to separate further from it, while dropping all the trash off I can here, leaving all the trash I can here, doing all the spiritual work I can here for the small, tiny little amount of time that we exist here. We don't have to be perfect, guys. We don't have to take every little step, look for the secret formula to break out and escape. If it was so complicated and you don't unlock the combination lock exactly right, the way all the esoteric and occult books say, then you're screwed. And it can't be that hard. Okay, it's pretty hard. Not many people see what we see, but it's not. Once you see it, I don't think it can be that hard. You have to keep reading the esoteric books because there's going to be one little, it's be like trying to get out of stealing that gold. Whatever, that gold bust in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and all the darts will come out of the wall and the giant ball will roll behind you. And if you don't take every step perfectly, the floor is going to drop out. And it's not good. Once you see it, I don't think it's going to be that hard. To exit out of this reality system, to be done with it, to have done the spiritual work here successfully, to continue to deny consent. I mean, I don't know if that does anything, but what's the harm in doing it? Saying, I see what you're trying to do here to me and to everyone else, and that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm not giving any power to it. And, I deny consent. There's nothing. What can go? I mean, who knows what it does, but why not try it? I do it as much as I can. So also, I'll catch myself. We do the little things. Catch myself when I'm sliding into old habits, like getting fearful, or a stress or anxiety building up over what happened to me this week. Oh my gosh, 1 week will turn to 2, will turn to 3, and then, it's going to get cold, and then I'll have to start lighting my stove, and then this and that, and I can't clean the house probably. It's starting to smell like cat pee, and all the and I say, wait a second, okay? Put the anxiety, fear, worry in check. We're in the avatar. We're always going to resort back to these issues, but is to overcome them, to continue to work. Never can get rid of them. We are in a limited avatar body. This will always be part of the experience, but we can catch ourselves. All right. I continue to catch myself in word trickery of the spellcraft of English. Like we've talked about before, they've designed it so we all say, it's not that good, but people say, I'm only human. Oh, you're telling your spiritual self and subconscious and unconscious aspects of you that you're only human. What a horrible, limiting term, like a hypnotist on yourself. It's all part of the trick to catch these things. And it happened to me this week. I'm going to close with this. It happened to me big time this week as I told, I don't know how many people for how many days. You know what I told them? I have no power. Think about that. I told them, I have no power. Oh boy. Is that now, Matt, just saying you have no power, meaning electricity, that's not going to damn your soul. I agree. That's not going to damn my spirit if I make one wrong move. It's cumulative. The damnation of what the reality system is designed a human being to do to itself here is cumulative. Not cumulonimbus, cumulative. If you work in a hospital system and you have 3 kids to feed and you have to do it, that ain't going to damn your soul, in my opinion, but it's cumulative. Could be a big-ass step backwards, and you might have a lot more work to do. It's all cumulative here. Remember that chart, getting above the threshold. So I said, wait a second. I'm not telling anybody I have no power anymore. And if I do say it, I stop and say, wait, I have no electricity. I have no, I said it for days, and then I saw right through it, and maybe I'm reading into it, but this is generally the types of tricks this reality system plays. At one point, I stopped and we said, "Wait a second, I got to rephrase that. Maybe something would be better saying, well, it would be better instead of I have no power saying I have no electricity, but even going further and say, I don't have in my house this week, I don't have any of Edison's dangerous junk that I need to thaw meat. I don't have Edison's highly dangerous AC electricity that I need to put lights on and thaw meat. That would be a better way of saying it, of course. Whatever you choose, instead of saying, I have no power, which could be spiritually interpreted the wrong way. So then you take the opposite. Oh, it's going to screw me like this. Then I'm going to use it against it. It's going to backfire. Oh, no, it's the opposite. I have no power. I have no electricity and Edison's dangerous junk. In terms of spiritual power and where you want me to go, reality system, I'll remember who I am. Remember that this is a limitation inside the avatar, but what is the whole of me? Oh, has a lot of power, tons and tons of power, however it's defined spiritually outside of this snow globe train stop reality. So I see your ruse. So when I said I have no power, oh wait, it's just like it's back to Clerks again. I see your ruse, ma'am, reality. My what? It said back to me. Your cunning attempt to trick me. Your cunning attempt to trick me to give away my power, to believe, or to make statements in that regard. I see your ruse, and you can't rent here anymore. At least you can't rent me anymore. Thanks for listening.